Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today we're going to be showing some of the best teams in version 2.15 of Gems of War. Some of the things that has happened between 2.1 and now. For one, and the biggest thing, is the Blackhawk Kingdom. The Blackhawk Kingdom was released. It's a pirate-based kingdom. We got quite a few troops from there. Bonnie Rose and the Kraken are by far the two biggest things from there. Other than that, we mainly just had a bunch of events, which has added to the troop pool, which makes up the bulk of the changes that has happened. There was one additional mechanic change. There wasn't that many between 2.1 and 2.15, but the main one is that heroes now have additional stats. All heroes start gaining additional stats after level 50 as compared to prior to this patch, and by level 250, that is a total of 3 extra attack, 2 extra magic, and 5 extra HP and armor than what we had previously. So let's go into some teams. We're going to be showing 6 teams here from a variety of late game and early game like builds, mostly more towards like the mid and late game. First one that we're going to be starting off with is one of my favorite. Many of you guys know that bomb bots were one of my favorite things to use when they first came out in the recent or the previous patch. And Guard's avatar is basically the new version of that. It is a mythic, unfortunately, but it deals damage to all enemies boosted by his armor, just like a Bomba at a 2-to-1 ratio, except he doesn't die. And then on top of that, he burns all undead and then silences all daemons. Very, very powerful. If you do not have him, you can just do alternate teams with a Bomba, but still very, very powerful. We'll use the Mercy to get it up really quick, and then we'll just have the Alchemist Hellcat loop and go on from there. So let's get into this first team here. So, right off the bat, we will want to try using a Mercy if we can get a good cast, and we can. You can see there's a 5 times right there, there's a 4 times there. There's also still a glitch in this game, in this patch, where we can use Mercy early. As soon as you have her ability trigger into Empowered, you can actually use it right there and then. Pretty much every single troop with Empowered has it, as long as they can automatically cast their ability, and Mercy is one of them. So, using Mercy in first slot is still fairly popular, particularly with teams like this, simply because you can actually deny about 5 to 10 seconds of the match, because you'll skip all of the animations that appear from like all of these buffs, like Divine Bond, and just all those other things like his Construct Bond. It just skips all of them. They'll still trigger, but you skip the time in which the entire game's just frozen going through them. So you'll save anywhere from about 5 to 10 seconds every single match by having a Mercy or another troop in first slot that has an empowered ability. And here we go. We'll just mainly just keep getting these two up. Mainly just want to cast our Guard's avatar twice, and then that'll be match. Any skulls we can pretty much just completely ignore. They will start to get in the way if you just ignore all of them, but hopefully the AI will take them. Like right here, we'll take those most likely, so we don't really need to worry about them. So all we have to do now is just keep looping. We are frozen on a troop. Luckily our loop is between red and yellow, so that doesn't really matter at all. And we can just do this again. He'll waste his turn on those skulls. We'll use Alchemist, and that'll pretty much be match. All he has left is a Silence Famine, because he is silenced because he is a daemon, and he does, the Guard's avatar does silence all daemon and burn all undead, which is also why he was burned on the Bone Dragon. But there we go. We'll just kill it off with a Hellcat, and this is quite possibly my favorite team currently in the game, just because it's so powerful, and it's basically my Bombot team that I loved using so much earlier, except without any of the risk. It's just pretty much always wins. I don't think I have a single lose with it, other than if they destroy the Guard's avatar. If you lose Guard's avatar, you pretty much lose the battle. It's probably still winnable, but if you get like a Bone Dragon tier or just a Great Maul hitting it, it is pretty much over that match. So let's just go into the second team here, where we will be using Black Manacles, Giant Spider, Karabos, and Forest Guardian. Forest Guardian is pretty powerful. It is like essentially like a better version of Inferno King that was added to the game. It gives, one of the main things that makes it very powerful is it has the Lord of Beasts, which gives all beasts 50% mana, which helps us give our entire team that, including our hero. If you use the Warden class, you can set it to a beast. It is the only class currently in the game, and likely the only one that ever will be, that can be set as a beast, because they only seem to do that one per class. And since we can do that, we'll just set it to the beast. The traits are pretty much abysmally useless, but you can set it to a beast, and then whenever you use a fully traded Forest Guardian, then you'll get that 50% mana. You can see we have 7 mana. Anything that has 50%, it rounds down. As you can see there with a 16, it just goes to the 8 because it's an even number, but you can see on these two odd ones, it rounded them down instead of upwards. So we'll just take the brown. We could take skulls. We do have to be careful of skulls though, because he does have quite a bit of protection from it. I do want to take browns here or a purple, but if we do that, he'll just get an entangle and a stun out on us. So I'm probably just going to take skulls there, just looking over a little bit more. Okay, we could have taken the grains as well, but I don't want him taking too much skulls. I don't mind too much if our hero dies, but I don't want him starting to use all of his AoE and then we don't have anything left. One really good thing about this team is you basically just keep replacing out your team. You have a 100% chance to summon the Warg, which is a troop that gives you souls and can even summon another unit, and you'll have the giant spider who can keep making a little spider swarm in the first slot. So even after your hero dies, you'll still have a whole team of units ready. So here I will let it take the skulls. We're just going to go for brown. I was hoping for a surge, but we did not get the surge. So let's see, green we don't really need right now. If we had our banner set to it, we could, but if I'm not mistaken, we have it to not that banner. I actually completely forgot off the top of my head what I set the banner to. It's something important for this team. Oh, I remember now. It's -1 red, +2 blue, and +1 purple is the banner, because we don't have any red on the team. So let's see. And of course, we might want to still take some red. You always, even if you're not using a color, you do want to deny it off the board. It's always good to remove colors that you do not need, particularly if you have troops that are going to be summoning gems to the board like this or converting them. So we are doing pretty bad as far as the mana game is going this match, but we did just get our giant spider up. We might be able to use it right there. I definitely need to use it, even if we're going to deny something like our precious browns, which we kind of do need for this team. So let me just see. Okay, we can do it on red, which is really good. I'm going to take these yellows first. That will give us our mini Groot, Nature Guardian. So we can use that if we really wanted to. Oh wait, no we can't. It converts all let's see, let's just read it. It converts all purples to skulls and all greens to brown, or all browns to green, sorry. So we cannot use that right now. It's also why we have the giant spider. We can create a bunch of purple on the board and then hopefully get alignment on it. Like right here, we'll deny the reds that we do not need. That'll also fill up both our hero and our Kerberos, which it didn't do it all the way, but at least we got some mana going. We can bait out some skulls right there, deny his Corvash a little bit longer, but I'm going to go for that. We'll convert those browns in. We'll get the skulls over there, and now we can really start getting this going. Also, since our entire team are beast, we did get a shield on all of our allies. That is the fourth thing that I didn't read, or the third thing that it does. It transforms all purple to skulls, all brown to green, and then on top of that, it also gives all allies a barrier. And as you can see there, now our whole entire team has a barrier. There is still a glitch with barrier where it doesn't stop skull spam, but barrier is still pretty strong. This team will just be even stronger whenever that gets fixed, but it's still a pretty decent team. This team does go fairly quick. I've been talking over it the whole time, so it has been going a little bit slower. But once you get like a good cycle at the beginning, you can just completely tear apart, especially if you get lucky enough to get the 20% chance to devour on your black manacles or the 15% chance to devour on the buffed up Kerberos. So we'll just take this, we'll take him out with that, maybe even get a devour. No, we do not, but we can just strive for the other devour, get out a convert when we need it. We can get a skull there. I don't believe we're getting an extra turn anywhere though, so I'll hold off on that for now. We'll try getting the devour. We did not get the devour. As you can see, luck is not on our side, but we'll likely be able to just get that convert out. We'll get some cascades going with it too. He will probably get some greens from it, but I don't mind. We can finish it up probably the following turn with a convert on our giant spider. If a purple would fall. Okay, that purple is not useful at all. We did give it some greens, but it's not really going to do that much. And this team, for the most part, is unkillable. I have not lost with it yet. It is a little bit to the slower side if you do get bad luck, as we are getting abysmal luck at this. But it is still very, very strong and fairly easy to build, kind of. You would need, the main thing that makes this team work is a fully traded Forest Guardian. Everything else you would not need traded. You would just need a fully traded Forest Guardian, and the first trait on Giant Spider is the bare minimum to make this team work. So we'll go for a purple here. I do have some really good earlier game builds that we're going to be showing later in these. We have 6 builds we're going to be showing. We still have 4 more to go, so let's go into them. And yeah, this is just a extremely heavy, if anything starts to come into the game where they just start plowing it down, and there's a couple things, mainly skull spam right now. This wasn't the skull spam team that we're up against, but this team actually works out pretty good against skull spam, even though we don't have a single thing that reduces it. We get so many summons between the Kerberos and the giant spider summoning little spiders, plus the warg that the Kerberos summons can summon even more things on top of that. So just a whole spamming of summoning into our first slot if you happen to lose your first slot to something like a skull spam. So it is decent at actually countering out the skull spam builds that are pretty popular in the game right now, particularly with Bone Dragon and a few other things. Next up, we have Desert Mantis, Valkyrie, Justice, and Queen Mab. One of my other personal favorites that exists right in this game right now. This troop was just added yesterday, actually, and I went over a little bit yesterday as well, but we'll be going over it even further today. The main thing that makes this thing insanely overpowered is the amount of looping that we can do. This new troop creates 8 yellows and 8 blues, which works absolutely perfect with a Valkyrie. Of course, our Valkyrie uses yellow, and it also transforms any mana we want into blue, and on top of all that, we're even getting some extra blue, and it even has a water link. The other one has air link, which works perfect, and we have the Justice, which is quite possibly one of the most broken troops in the entire game, definitely the most broken Guardian. What it actually has is a 4 times boost ratio, which converts basically into an 8 times boost ratio whenever it freezes enemies. This is mainly because it has 2 things that scale off it. It's attack and life, whereas all other Guardians only have one thing. So one frozen troop, you're getting an extra 4 attack and 4 life for it. We freeze the entire enemy team. That is 16 bonus. That is a total of 32 extra stats, 16 extra attack, and 16 extra life. And that's on top of the base value already. Just the boost from it, if you get a whole team frozen, is more than the base value. So very, 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 very powerful. And we use every single color on this team other than green, and we have our banner set to the double blue and the +1 on yellow, and the -1 green on that banner does literally nothing because we don't actually use it. So we'll just take some skulls here, get some of our mana that we need as well. We don't really need purple. Could have wished we could have gotten a different mana there other than purple, but I wanted to get the skulls out of the way. He's going to be doing a little tap on there, not too worried about any kind of damage that he's going to do. Going to start getting the 2 of them up. Unfortunately, since it is slightly blocking, we do need to have it in this order, but sometimes you will, when you're taking like reds and yellows, you'll probably block out one of them over the other. Like right here, we have both of them with a little bit of mana, but neither of them actually have full mana. That will happen sometimes, and it is unfortunate when it does, but we'll hopefully just get a brown surge. There we go, and now we can start getting this team rolling. I am going to take these. Oh no, if he didn't do that, we could have taken a blue there and gotten that 4 extra turn, but he did ruin it for us, so I'm just going to gamble, and hopefully we can start getting this thing looping from that. We do miss, which is a little bit unfortunate. It will miss. Pretty much any looping team can miss from time to time, and it actually hurts this team quite a bit if we do miss, though, because any miss that we do means we're not freezing anyone. If we're not freezing anyone, that means we are not gaining bonus stats, and it's pretty important with this team to be able to start getting some frozen troops on the enemy team, because once we start getting that, it'll just start looping out of control. So right here, I will take these yellows. I didn't take the other one because I'm scared he might have gotten an extra turn off of something over here, which I wanted these greens preserved so we would be able to take it. Oh, and I just noticed now that we did not get enough mana on our Valkyrie to be able to do that. So I'm going to have to take one more turn. We'll get a nice spell off right there as long as he doesn't ruin it. He'll probably do it on one of those top rows. Yeah, right there. He did it on the row with the most red, which I believe is his boost ratio. Yes, it is. He does, for every red he destroys, he does 2 additional damage. We'll convert that out, and now we have this thing rolling. So let's just take away everything that we don't need. Double check the blues. Okay, there's not enough blues. Whenever there's 13 or more blues, we can cast the Queen map for free. We don't even need to do anything else with it. So right here, we do need to start getting our Justice a little bit protected. He is basically spamming everything at it, but I am going to go for skulls here. Just going to keep spamming it on the skulls. Hopefully we'll get lucky enough that it will go in our favor. We'll just keep doing that. If we lose all of our mana, we're just going to use the Mantis, which it looks like we're going to be coming to that point pretty soon. So we'll just take that from right up there, keep hitting them with a little bit of skulls, and I guess I will throw a Queen Mab at it just so it'll actually die to the next skull. And now we'll throw the Mantis. Mantis should get it on blues, hopefully. Yes, we'll get it right there. And you just keep repeating this cycle. You use it on either skulls or on yellow, your Justice, that is. And then you just keep scaling out of proportion. We did go a little bit slower this time, but it can win in about a minute if you get a good starting board, which we by no means got. Like, if you can get the Mantis or Valkyrie up on turn 1, you're pretty much just won within a minute with this team, and it goes very, very nice. So we'll just do that. We'll get another skull. Now all we need is just one more skull, and that will clean it up. Also, you can see with the Frozen, as long as they use something with blue, they'll just keep, or blue or yellow, they'll just keep taking the extra turns and losing their turn because of that, because of the Frozen that we have from our Queen Mab. So I'm just going to take some purples right here. Never mind, that won't finish it off. So we'll take yellow. I was going to do that, but he's just going to buff himself up, and that wouldn't really work out. So let's see. Board is not liking us this time, gosh. I don't want to take those yellows either, but I guess we'll have to. I'll give it 1 skull. We can start getting our loop going back again. I just really wanted to finish out with skulls, because that probably would have been slightly quicker. But I'll just throw this out. I see those extra turns there. I just wanted to go... And normally I don't take them just to give a better chance for our troops to be able to get an extra turn. If you take all the extra turns off the board, which the bots do a lot, which is why something like this you can't use on your defend team. But if you start taking all the extra turns off the boards, you're decreasing, or particularly of the colors that you are creating on the board, you don't want to do that because you're decreasing the chance that you're actually going to get an extra turn off of something that actually creates a bunch of gems, like the Mantis, like Justice, like other things of the such. With a Valkyrie, you don't need to worry about that as much because you can choose wherever you want. But with troops that just do them completely randomly, you need as many on the board as you possibly can. So, next up, that's team number 3. Let's go into number 4, using the new Kraken troop. This team is also particularly good against one of the very popular teams right now, which is Double Manacles, Deep Borer, and Bone Dragon, since the Kraken is a pretty hard counter to anything that is focused on a last troop as the main troop, since it has a 40% chance to devour the last enemy, plus it pokes at the last 2 enemies. And we have 2 exploders up front. Why take mana on the board when we can just explode the whole board? We have Gorgotha and the Dragon Soul loop. That works with pretty much anything. You can use Gorgotha, Dragon Soul in their current status right now with pretty much any team in the entire game, as long as you have a good damage source to go with them, which is mainly our Kraken, but even our Dragon Soul alone can act as a damage source if we really need to, particularly earlier on in the game. The earlier you are in the game, the more powerful the Dragon Soul is just in general. We're going for the Gorgotha first. I took the browns instead of yellow because we are on a -1 yellow. I have that mainly because we need the Dragon Soul banner, which is +2 purple, +1 red, just to make sure we can rush him up. We didn't do that this match simply because the board gave us a 5x brown at the beginning, but normally with this team you do rush up the Dragon Soul before the Gorgotha, and most times it'll go quicker that way. But of course, if you get a good starting board, it doesn't really matter. Let's see. There's like no purple on the board, so we'll just explode this. Hopefully we'll get a giant spider and we can fill up those 2. I'm not too worried about anything that he'll really do. He'll just keep poking at our Gorgotha, and we have granite skin on that. It's going to take him a long while before he can even pierce that. Plus, even if he does somehow kill that, there's a 25% chance it'll summon an ancient horror. I actually saw that before I even got to the word, but yeah, I keep forgetting what it's called because it's so underused. You basically only see ancient horrors whenever they actually die. No one really uses ancient horrors anymore, simply because you can just summon them through the 25% demonic packs. But if that does happen, if our Gorgotha dies, there's a 25% chance that will become a troop there, and with the giant spider, of course, the spider swarm will just keep spamming there as well to infinitely give us a tank, which is really good against skull spam as well. So right here, I am going to just ignore these. One of the things that we can do with this team is do a giant spider Kraken loop. This is possible with the blues that you create from that. You just get your giant spider up, and then from there you use your giant spider to fill up your Kraken, and you just keep looping between the 2. This can normally happen a couple times if you get lucky enough, maybe even more. Normally, I do not see it happen more than 3 times, but you can just keep looping between the 2, keep getting devours. We're not getting a single devour, though. We're getting pretty unlucky with it. And now seems to be the end of our line on the loop, unless we can get enough mana, which I don't think we're going to be able to get here. We're also taking all these extra turns. It's important to take extra turns because we have a lot of bigs and huges on this team, which will help us tank against pretty much any damage that will be coming our way. Of course, big will give us 1 HP every single time we take 4 times or more, and the huge will give us 2. And there we go, another one. We get the loop going a little bit more. Oh no, we won't be able to use the giant spider on anything, so the loop has stopped already. So we will use this on blue. You can do that if you need the mana. It is more important to have both the Dragon Soul and the Kraken up than it is to have blue on the board, so we are going to take that away. That does mean our Kraken now no longer has a chance, or at least a very low chance, that it will get an extra turn here. And we have been extremely unlucky. Of course, whenever I do recordings, it has to get the absolute worst of luck. As you can see, we have casted this, what, 3-4 times, and we have gotten 0 devours on a 40% chance. That does happen sometimes. Other times you'll get it like every single time. You can just like team wipe the entire team, just devour after devour. And of course, to add to our bad luck, he does get demonic pack, which creates the ancient horror there, which will help him tank a little bit more and be annoyingly just delaying the battle. One thing to note about the Kraken is it cannot devour if it actually kills. It can only devour if it kills the last troop. Like, let's just say this was like 20 HP right now and we killed it, it would have a 0% chance to devour. But right now, since it's going to survive with 5 HP, there is going to be a chance to devour it. One thing to also note about the Kraken is the Kraken is going to be even more powerful next patch, because it's going to be having a new legendary trait. There was a glitch with this legendary trait, and it was patched out pretty much on the first day, and they made it to this weak skill that does gain 2 to the random skill when at the start of each turn. It's going to be switched to deal 3 damage to all enemies next patch. But let's just see. I'll just take a skull here. We'll follow up with the Kraken. Follow that into, I have no clue what, but we'll need a little bit more damage. I'm hoping for a devour here. Let's see. Finally, we get to devour, and we get the extra turn. And there's match as long as we hit enough skulls right here. So there we go. Yep, we hit enough skulls. That did the extra damage. We only did 11, even though he had 16 HP. The rest of the damage was from the skulls that we exploded. So there we go. Now let's go into the early game build. Oh, hey, we even got an arcane there, the pure brown arcane. That's like the last trait stone I need, but or you know, I don't need it, I mean. But yeah. And now we are going with a little bit of a weaker team, but this team can be used very early on in the game. It does require 2 epics, but it's only a rare and a ultra rare. One thing that also makes it easier to be used earlier on in the game is it basically requires no traits. It only requires the Alchemist's first 2 traits up to Firelink, and it only requires Goblin Rocket's first trait up to Firelink as well. So pretty much just up to Firelink in everything in this team. You don't need any traits on Hellcat, and you don't need any traits on Nobbin Brothers. Actually, I don't even have them traded. So yeah, that's just, you really don't need it. But yeah, the essential idea of this is we loop between Alchemist and Hellcat, and we spam our Goblin Rocket and Nobbin Brothers over and over and over again. One thing that happened in this patch, which is why I'm actually showing this team, is the Nobbin Brothers were buffed in this patch. It used to be very weak. It used to only gain an extra turn whenever it did a damage to all enemies, which was only a 1 in 3 chance that it gained an extra turn. Also, the amount of gems that exploded and the amount of tack loss it did not scale off of magic. But now, it all scales off of magic, and it all gains an extra turn. So regardless of what it does, it's not bad. It's always something good. So that it greatly increased his viability in many teams. You can even use him in the Guard's Avatar team that I showed earlier, but I prefer this setup because just using it with a Mercy instead of a Goblin Rocket is going to greatly reduce your damage potential. This team already is lacking a little bit in damage potential, but it makes up for the fact that it does have extremely good board control and you can loop it pretty well. Of course, with many of these teams, one of the main problems is we do need to get it started. Because we don't have a Mercy or another Empower troop, we do have to worry about the board and make sure we can actually get a good starting board, or otherwise we might lose important troops. But there we go. We could even use the Goblin Rocket there. Many times we do want to spam out the Goblin Rocket just to make sure we don't end up wasting any mana that we could have been using. So right here, we'll just get these blues out of the way. I will be converting all the blues into reds right here. Even though we're going to lose our turn to that, we are frozen because of the dragon, or because of Bone Dragon, which is slightly unfortunate. But right here, you can see there's a bunch of blue, We do not use blues, so you do normally want to aim at the blue and the yellow, which is why I was trying to set that up on blue. There's one less color that we do not need. He doesn't need it either, which is slightly unfortunate, but it's still more in our favor than I believe it will be in his favor. So we'll take that, get our Nobbin Brothers up, get a little bit of every single mana, and if we can ever get unfrozen, we can really start to loop with this team. One really bad thing with this team, as well as just looping teams in general in this game, is if they get frozen, they are going to be extremely disabled. But here, we're just going to throw our Nobbin Brothers, throw our actually, I'll hold on to the Goblin Rocket for now, because we don't really need to control the board. Normally, I try saving it to control the board, but you can just keep spamming it to do whatever you want. Just get some extra damage, or when you're about to get a bunch of mana, you could just use it. But we're going to use it right here. It is a really good move. We'll move this down, and then we'll get a 5 times yellow that we'll be able to take right from there. And we're not frozen on that either, so we can just take it without having to worry about anything. Here is one of the instances in which I will just throw a move again. We'll just use it right in this corner. I'm going to be using it on the blue right there. And there we go. Wow, that cascade was perfect. Gave us even more. So we'll use that on the color we don't use. I was going to use it on the brown, but if you can set it up on the color like blue or green, which you don't use, or any color that you don't use, if you happen to be using a different team, would be optimal. And we just finally got unfrozen from the Dragon Soul that was previously freezing us. So we are going to use our Nobbin Brothers. If it goes well, we'll be able to take that for free. Yes, it does. It does a attack reduction, so we'll get a bunch of mana there. We even got a Sky Skull as well on top of that. And yeah, we'll just take some yellows, get an Alchemist cast probably on the purple. And yeah, that should pretty much be the match. And this team can essentially loop forever if you get a good enough board, and it does take a little bit longer if you go for the forever loop, which is kind of why I'm trying not to do it. Mainly just trying to go for damage here, just to end it out. And like this, there we go, ended. It didn't even matter where we casted that. So yeah, that is a earlier game version of a team. This team can essentially beat any team in the entire game. If you're a newer player and you don't really have that much variety for builds, or like you don't have any legends or mythics, this team doesn't use a single legend or mythic. It does use 2 epics, but epics are a lot easier to get than something like a legendary or a mythic. So definitely good to consider. What really makes it work is the Alchemist Hellcat loop. You can put that with almost anything. That is a very, very powerful loop. Normally I do it with Goblin Rocket simply because Goblin Rocket has very good value and a lot of board control, damage, and just everything. Everything about him is really good. And Nobbin Brothers I normally put with it. There are better alternatives from Nobbin Brothers like Guard's Avatar and stuff, but many of the better alternatives like Guard's Avatar, of course, are much higher rarity and are a little bit harder to obtain. But anyways, let's go now into this final troop, using one of my favorite troops that was actually added between 2.1 and 2.15, and it is Queen Jezebel with Northrender. Northrender was never good before Jezebel came in here, and a Valkyrie. The main reason we're using Northrender in the first slot is because it creates blues and gains attack, which synergizes perfectly with a Valkyrie and the fact of what this ability is. This is one of the longest texts in the entire game, but it deals an ally's attack damage to the first enemy, then gives them attack and armor. One thing to note about that, and it even says in the correct order, but just to clarify, it does do its damage first and then adds it. Like, it's going to add 15, mine does, but it's going to do 28 when I initially do it, because it adds it after the fact. And then on top of that, it also gives all allies, including herself, 8, or other than myself, I mean, sorry, or all other allies, 3 to 8 mana. And if you put like 3 Queen Jezebels in your team, you can actually just loop them, and it just goes crazy. I'd prefer using a Northrender though, and just having the Northrender create some blues, because normally 2 Queen Jezebels have a pretty high chance that they're going to be creating at least 9 mana for our Northrender. So we're going to be using that as our final team here. If you do need alternatives to replace this out, actually everything in here is pretty low value other than the Queen Jezebel. You could probably put just 1 Queen Jezebel and use a different troop. I personally prefer using a double Queen Jezebel though, simply because she is really, really good at filling up a Valkyrie. Double Queen Jezebel, Valkyrie, like many Valkyrie builds, are very, very strong. I think even though they nerfed Valkyrie's Necromancy, she's still one of the stronger troops in the game. The amount of synergy she has is still absolutely insane, the amount of synergies. I think even though I'm pretty sure they could do that with like any other color, and it wouldn't be as strong. Like if they just completely scrapped Valkyrie, gave her ability to something else, it would still be completely broken, just how much you can really use that for so many different teams, like this one. So essentially what we're going to be doing here is getting up Queen Jezebel. We aren't getting that good of a start, but we might be able to use his Mercy, right? Oh, no, that was very bad. He could have won right there if the AI would have casted that. That was very scary. He definitely could have just won right there. Wow. And, yeah. So, I will ignore that. I will let him take the little pier right there. I don't mind him doing that. We'll take some yellows just to make sure he doesn't get that 5 times. For some reason, he's still holding his ability. Not quite sure why, but we shall take advantage of it. So we'll do this, get a little poke off. One other thing to note about this team, which is also why it works pretty good with a Northrender up front, is Queen Jezebel's legendary trait. It is a, as you can see, it's triggering every single turn. What it does at the start of each turn, it gives all humans 2 armors, and Northrender is indeed a human. He's only a human, actually. And that will be very beneficial to us because that means he's tanking up every single turn. He'll easily be able to tank against skulls and other things of the such. So let's see. We do not have a single good move here. That is pretty unfortunate, but since that, we'll just get up Queen Jezebel. I really don't mind if it takes skulls. Taking skulls is much better than it taking its mana, which is very scary. It could indeed beat us here, which would be so embarrassing. And it probably will. Let's see. Great Maul is capable of doing stuff like that, just winning out of nowhere just by devouring one of your troops. You can always go a full impervious team to try to counter that, though it's not always that viable to try doing so. The best thing you could possibly do here for us is hit our Northrender, because our Northrender we don't really need. Valkyrie is a little bit annoying that it was hit, but we will be able to work around that at least. The most optimal thing that could possibly happen right now is if we get at least 5 mana on our North Render and just keep going from there. Of course, it gives us the lowest value possible, only 3, so that is a bit unfortunate, but still very much winnable. We'll get another skull, we'll be able to raise our attack even more. Definitely not the best thing that could have happened, but we'll get some of our mana back, we'll even get an extra turn right there, and we'll be able to get Queen Jezebel off yet again. And we'll do that buff. I completely forgot to check the board, and it's already too late for me to X out. Luckily, there is no alignment on the yellow, so if it does that right now, it will give us a bunch of yellow. Unfortunately, since our Valkyrie died, we will not be able to use any of that yellow, but we will be able to deny it just to make sure his famines aren't able to do anything. We even get some brown out of it, which will of course be helpful if we want to cast our North Render, which I am not going to do at the moment, mainly because I mainly like to cast it if we're actually going to be raising our attack enough to be able to kill, but because of these famines, he has reduced our magic down to basically 0. It's at 1 right now, so I'm only gaining 2 attack. At least the spawning of the blues are static, so it's always going to be the same amount, but since it's so reduced, there's almost no point in casting our North Render unless we're really going to be needing the blues that it creates. Like right here would actually be a okay time to do it. He's frozen on blue because we have the trait Chilling Touch whenever it does skull damage, just like it did there. We even got a map from the Cascade, but we also got a freeze and a skull hit on the Mercy, so we can cast this with ease now. Even if we miss, he will miss his turn. And we do miss, but he's going to miss that turn from taking a blue extra turn right there, or wherever he decides to take it, and there he goes with the miss. So we are fine as far as that is concerned. We'll just throw our Queen Jezebel out again. That'll of course get a kill, and it'll get our next Queen Jezebel up, and eventually you just keep doing this until you completely one-shot. If we were using a Valkyrie, or if our Valkyrie was still alive, it would definitely be tearing apart a lot better than this, but it still goes decently well. Even without our Valkyrie, it can still easily come back with something, or from something like that. So we're going to risk a blue extra turn here. We do indeed get it, which is one really nice thing that we can do with this team. And yeah, we'll just throw up the skulls, use double Queen Jezebel, and that is match. We'll just throw the first one, throw the second one, and there we go. And she doesn't exactly work too well with too many night teams, but as far as with humans, with North Render, with Valkyrie, with things like that, she is very, very good. And there we go. And that will clean up. Not the most cleanest of battles that we could have done for the final battle of the best teams, but still all very strong teams. And yeah, that will pretty much wrap it up for this video. We will, of course, be doing another one whenever 2.2 comes out. Currently, there's no announcement on when 2.2 will be coming out or when the preview will be coming out, but it is very likely that will be happening before the holiday season. Anyways, that will be wrapping up for this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.